Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. It is the OG hour with Patrick Allen and my co-host today, Matt Verderame. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. You know, I just appreciate the Amazon guy waiting until right when we hit the record button to come rolling up with a package when I got the dog in here. Just fantastic job by the Amazon guy.
He doesn't give a damn about your problems.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Oh. Move your studio to the back of the house.
Yeah.
So excited to have you on, man. Obviously, we got a ton to get to today. The DeAndre Hopkins trade goes down. Big news in the Chiefs kingdom. And then the Chiefs got a game against the Raiders, which is going to be something of a grudge match. I don't think the Raiders are going to put up much of a fight in this one, but I think the Chiefs got some things they might want to get off their chests. It's going to be an interesting game.
I think the Raiders better put up a fight or they're going to get absolutely annihilated in this game. Because, look, we have, God knows, seen the Chiefs over the years play down to opponents and play in games where they don't really care and they don't have a whole lot of motivation, I guess would be the right term. And I don't think it's going to be a problem this game. I think they're going to have a lot of motivation. Look, it sounds weird to say this now. This is the last team to beat them. They have not lost in 12 games.
Yeah.
This is it. Like, the last time they lost was that disaster on Christmas. And it's not just that. It's everything that's been said since. The Jordan Rule stuff from Pierce, and, of course, that, the Kermit stuff in the summer and during training camp. I'll give you a real quick early prediction right off the top of this podcast. If they can beat them by 50, they're going to do it. They're not going to kneel and run the clock out. If they have an opportunity to do it, they will unload on the Raiders in this game.
Yeah, they enjoy beating the crap out of the Raiders, and I think the stage is just set. I mean, we saw what they did to them after the whole victory lap thing at Arrowhead, and I think we talk a lot about on this podcast how the coaching staff, Andy Reid, sometimes they maybe hold a few things back. I don't think they're gonna be holding a whole lot back here in this game. They're gonna have a special game plan just for the Raiders, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, because they don't care. They look at the Raiders and it's like, yeah, that's nice. We show you something. What, are you going to use it against us in a month?
Right.
They're not concerned. I promise you. No, I think, look, there's also more to it than just that, though, too. Mahomes, his numbers are not good. They're going to try to get that rolling. Hopkins is going to be in his first game as a member of the Chiefs. They're going to try to get that rolling. I think this is going to be one of those games that a lot of NFL players call a stats game, where if they have the opportunity to just roll them and everybody gets, it's like the old Oprah thing, right? You get a car and you get a car, and it's going to be that kind of a deal. Now they got to do it. I've watched the Chiefs long enough to know that it's also completely possible that we're sitting here and I've got a migraine because it's 20-17 in the fourth quarter. But it does kind of feel like the game that they are going to come out ready to go. They've never lost in this building. They have more playoff wins at Allegiant Stadium than the Raiders do. I would expect, in fact, they have more playoff wins than anybody, all 31 teams combined in the NFL. It's the only one that's ever been played there. I would expect this to be a game where the Chiefs lay them on a slab for most of this game. I just don't think the Raiders have a whole lot they can do other than Max Crosby has 7 sacks. I think that's pretty much about it.
It's going to be a good one. We got a great show for you today. We're going to preview that game. We're going to talk about the DeAndre Hopkins trade. We're going to grade that, talk about some other news items. There's more injuries, lots to get to. Before we get to all that, got to let you know that Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan, if you're looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and 2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. It's the best place to cash in on all your takes this football season, which players are going to go off, which ones are ice cold. Make your entries in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. The one great thing they've got is vulture protection. So like if you select a designated running back to score a touchdown on your pick'em entry and they get vultured, we will rescue your entry. This happens to me all the time in fantasy football. It's infuriating. So you could join the 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog, their champs game. You can do that. You can win money making entries on your favorite player. If you want to trail me, I got a 4-legger I'm feeling great about for Chiefs Raiders. I've got Patrick Mahomes higher than 238.5 passing yards. I got Kareem Hunt higher than 66.5 rushing yards. I've got DeAndre Hopkins at lower than half a rushing or receiving touchdown, and Brock Bowers at lower than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. Let's ride on this one together, team. I'll be in our private Discord following along during the game to see if I hit on that one. So download the app today. You can use the code Arrowhead Addict. That's all one word. You'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that's our code Arrowhead Addict, all one word, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash today. Just select higher or lower on your favorite players and cash in on Underdog. You got to be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama or Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 and older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York to 467-369. All right, Verderame, let's get to the news. So we'll start off with the big one. Everybody already knows Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins. It was a 5th rounder. It becomes a 4th rounder if the Chiefs, I believe he plays 60% of the snaps and the Chiefs make the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I think if I told you before the trade, hey, Verderame, would you trade? Now, you don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl, but would you give up a 4th round pick to get DeAndre Hopkins if it guaranteed that the Chiefs were going to go to the Super Bowl? Would you have signed up for that one?
I'd give up a 1st round pick for guaranteed them going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
It's the whole point.
Even without a win?
Yeah, it's the whole point. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. Because if they go to the Super Bowl, I feel pretty damn good about them. Like at that point, I mean, look, no disrespect to Detroit, to the world, fine. Yeah. Because that means that they're all the way there. And I remember how I felt last year about them when they got to the Super Bowl. I remember distinctly feeling and saying here and everywhere else, they're going to win. They're going to win this game. Now, it was a heart stopper, but they won. So I don't know how you could dislike the trade, honestly. Like, and that's not a Chiefs take. They gave up a 5th round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm not sitting here trying to tell anybody that he's the guy who was 3-4 years ago. He's not. But he's the guy who last year had 1,000 yards with Will Levis. Like, he's pretty damn good receiver. Like, I was walking the other day because I know you've had back issues, unfortunately, in your life. I got out of my car the other day and just hurt myself. I can't even explain how I did it. But, like, the only way I can loosen up my lower back is to walk. Like, right after we're done with this podcast, so I have no idea how I'm getting out of this chair. But in any event, so I was walking for like an hour. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, where would I rank him? Like, if I had to rank him as receiver what in the league? And I came up between 30 and 35. Like, that's including guys who are hurt. Like, and maybe haven't played a little bit this year, like in Nakua or Cup or Olave. I'm like, I think he's right between like 30 and 35. So he's a low end one. He's a really good 2. And I'm fine giving up a 5th round pick that only converts if they're in the Super Bowl. Yeah, sounds great. I have no problem with that. They're not on the hook pass this year. Talking to people around the team, my understanding is, look, they want him to take over Rashee Rice's role, which is going to be a lot of slot. It's going to be a lot of intermediate game. That's how they see this. That's how they see this edition. So I think it's great. I mean, what is the downside? It doesn't work out. Okay, it's a 5th round pick. So what?
Yeah.
And if he hits his upside and he's terrific, then you're thrilled to death. You don't care about it. So yeah, no, I am 1,000% on board with the trade.
Yeah, it's one of these things too. We just don't know how much he has left in the tank. Like, the fact of the matter is, man, like, yeah, like, is he the guy he was a few years ago? Of course not. He's gotten a lot older. But I mean, look what this team has done. Juju Smith-Schuster was a corpse in New England. He was a cadaver. He was giving them absolutely nothing. And part of it was maybe him. Part of it was probably motivation. Part of it was probably that the team was terrible. And so it's like, why are you going to go out there and kill yourself to, catch passes from these guys? Kareem Hunt wasn't in a training camp. He was on the all couch team until the Chiefs plucked him off of his couch. And now he's out there running incredibly efficiently behind the center of this line. Juju Smith-Schuster comes and gets a 100-yard game. Now his hamstring's torn to shreds, but so you don't think DeAndre Hopkins, who, as you pointed out, got 1,000 yards last year, might have a little more left in the tank than he was putting out there on the field or had the opportunity to demonstrate in Tennessee? Of course, he said it today in his press conference. He's like, I haven't played meaningful football in like 2 years. So it gives you juice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, if you're going to work every day and you know that your work, you have pride in it because you want to be really good at what you do, but you also know that realistically speaking, like, okay, so look, without getting political, let's use what's going on in the country right now, right? So if you're working on a campaign, like, you want to do well because you believe in your candidate and you're fighting for that person or whatever.
Yeah.
But if they're down 15 points in the polls, like, all right, I mean, what, are you going to knock on those extra 5 doors? Are you're going to do that extra rally? You're going to, maybe not, because you feel like, well, yeah, sure, I believe what I'm doing, but what is it? What is the real payoff here? Whereas if you're down, 1 in the poll or you're up 1 in the poll, then you're like, hey, you know what, man, I'm gonna work that extra hour. I'm gonna hit every door I can. I'm gonna make sure all those mailers get out. I think it's a similar situation with this, right? Like, he obviously wanted to play well, did the best he could. He's professional. He's a Hall of Famer, or future Hall of Famer. But what are you playing for? They suck. They sucked the whole time he was there. Now all of a sudden, hey man, what you do really matters. Like, you're trying to win a Super Bowl. He's 32. It's probably the best bite at the apple he's ever going to have. And you think about, okay, so this week they're playing the Raiders, fine. Next week they're on Monday Night Football. Then they play Denver. Then they're in Buffalo. Like, he's going to play. I mean, those are 2 of the biggest games he's going to play in years. So, and for the Chiefs, the rest of the Chiefs, it's like a warm-up event. So, Listen, I do think he's going to be better and he's going to be more productive because you're going to be focused more. Maybe it's a thing where, hey, maybe in practice on Fridays in Tennessee, you're like, all right, whatever. But here you're like, yeah, you know what, man, I better get in those reps. I want to get a couple extra throws, a couple extra juggling. Maybe I'll do a little more film, right? Because now, like, it matters a lot. And I also think, too, when you go from playing, and I'm not trying to denigrate, Will Levis, whatever. It is what it is. He struggled this year. But when you go from playing with a quarterback who really has no gravitas in the league, going to Mahomes, you don't, for the lack of a better term, you don't want to be the asshole. You don't want to be the guy who's not putting in the work and dropping passes and running the wrong route. Like, look, Hopkins is a consummate professional. He's been in the league. It's his 12th season. Like, the guy knows how to work, get the job done. I think it's a great signing or acquisition. I thought Cooper was the best guy out there, and I thought Hopkins and Deontay Johnson were like a half step down, and the Chiefs paid a lot less for Hopkins than they would for Cooper. So I think, honestly, it's a great trade by Brett Veach, and I think he helps quite a bit. Now he's got to hope he stays healthy and things are good, and you go forward.
Yeah, a lot of people thought Randy Moss was washed when he was in the literal black hole that is the Raiders. And then he goes to New England. I'm not saying Hopkins could go out there and catch 50 touchdown passes or something, but you just don't know until people get in the right spot. And you mentioned it, the culture too. Juju Smith-Schuster was talking about that. He was raving about the culture in Kansas City and the difference that he sees in Kansas City versus what was going on in his time in New England. And so Hopkins is going to get assimilated into that. And, yeah, he wants to win a Super Bowl ring, but there's also another thing out there. He plays well this year with the Chiefs. He might get one more nice one-year contract from some desperate team that thinks he's the missing piece for a Super Bowl. So, there's money on the line for D. He's got a chance to earn another paycheck if he wants, or he could ride off into the sunset with a Super Bowl ring. Both of those outcomes are possible if he plays well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and again, I think that if you are the Chiefs, you're banking on him coming in and being who he's been, being a player who you can change the game with. And I'll put it one other way, because I think this is important. When they acquired him, they acquired a player who can win them a playoff game. They acquired a guy who could have a day in January where you're sitting there going, man, they just can't stop him. And there's a world where, they're playing Baltimore and we're sitting there and you're like, he's killing them every third down. He's killing them in the red zone. I mean, do I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to go out and, a prorated 1,500 yards this year? Hell no. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But I'll tell you right now, do I think there's a world where, especially again, as it matters more and more late in the year, especially in the postseason, is there a world where you're looking at him going, man, he just cooked a bunch of guys? I mean, just look at last year. So last year, not ancient history, last year, with quarterbacks who cannot throw the football. He had games of 140 yards, 128 yards, and 3 touchdowns, 124 yards. Like, those are games. You get that in a playoff game, you're probably winning. Yeah. And you are probably winning that football game. I mean, he's a guy who, his last year in Arizona, 103 yards, 159 yards, 98, 91, 80. I mean, those are games that, like, if you do that in a playoff game, unless it's garbage time, you're down by 1 billion points, but based on the way this team's played and their defense, probably not going to be the case. Like, if you do that in real time, good luck. You're probably winning. And I'll tell you another thing. If he does that, the next week, Kelsey's going for 100 because nobody's going to cover him. Like, that to me is why they got him. They didn't get him to win this week against the Raiders. They got him when they're facing Baltimore. They're facing, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Houston. That's why. And I think he's a difference maker for sure.
Yeah, if he's giving you 6 for 70 and a touchdown every other game, every couple games, you're going to be thrilled. And as you pointed out, he could do more than that. All right, so I was watching the Pat McAfee show yesterday. They were talking about the DeAndre Hopkins trade. Yep. And Pat McAfee, obviously, played in the league, knows a lot of people in the league, has actual real sources, said he talked to his sources, and they said that the Chiefs might not be done after the DeAndre Hopkins trade. So, I start thinking, like, who could his source be? I'm speculating here. Is it an agent? Is it Brett Veach? Who's going to say we might not be done? It's going to be somebody in the front office, probably, maybe. You never know. Have you heard anything about this? And do you expect the Chiefs to double down here and make another move?
I haven't specifically asked anybody if they plan to make another move. But I would tell you is I don't believe, based on my understanding of their thought process, I do not think they're going to trade a day 2 pick or a day 1 pick, but in early first 3 rounds. I don't think they're going to trade one of those picks for a guy who is a rental. I think if they make a trade with one of those picks, it will be someone who they view as a long-term piece of the team. So then you start getting into, they don't have 5th and 6th round picks right now. And the 5th can turn to a 4th. So you're kind of locked in there. Now they have 3 7th rounders. That could be used as an ancillary piece. That could be the old, hey, let's go get DeMarcus Robinson and give up a 7th. Because that's what he would cost. But I'll give you one guy. And this is total speculation. But it's something I've been thinking about. And it's something I'm going to talk about on my own pod later on today as well. But we'll do it here. If you're the Chiefs, do you call the Saints up about Marshawn Lattimore?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't know. They might still think they're in it though, man. That's the only
they're
thing.
not in it. They suck.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, I'll be the one who tells the team they're not good. And he's 28 years old. And his salary, he's signed through 2026. In 2025, his base salary, which is what you would take on as your cap hit if you trade for a player, is base salary, not the cap number. $16 million. In 2026, it's 16.5. You know what his base salary is right now this year?
What is it? Lay it on me.
1.2. They would be acquiring him for $600,000 this year. They can afford him. And he's signed, as I said, for a few more seasons at a pretty, like, you're getting Marshawn Lattimore, and so right now, his Saints cap hit, for the record, 14.6 this year, jumps to 31.4 next year, 28.5. I'll tell you right now, if you're the Saints, as good as he is, he's not worth a $32 million cap hit. He's not. And if they were to move off of Lattimore, okay, they save money. So they would have to eat some money up front, but they would save 18 and then 18.5 million each next year.
And they have cap issues.
They're currently, let me pull this up because it's so ridiculous. It's almost hard to believe. Cap issues, Patrick doesn't even do it justice. So they are looking at currently being 82 million over next year's cap, projected cap. Okay, nobody else is more than 4.5 million over projected cap next year. They're 82 million over, and they just extended Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, that's another reason why I find it hard to believe that they would trade, because it would be a smart trade for them to make. And meanwhile, they're re-signing 29-year-old running backs on a team that clearly needs to do at the best a soft rebuild.
I'm telling you right now, man, I'd call them and be like, look, you need to get out of some of these contracts, and you know it. And there's no other way out. You got to start dealing with some of these dudes. And you're not a contender. We all know this.
You need young players, cheap players.
We will give you a second-round pick for him. And if you're the Chiefs, like, look, that's not nothing. But you have 2 third-rounders, and one of those third-rounders is Tennessee's, and it's basically a late second-round pick. If I am the Chiefs, I'm 1,000% making that phone call. I'm calling them up, being like, you want him? You want a second-round pick for Lattimore? Because I'll tell you right now, man, they get Marshawn Lattimore on this team. That's good luck. You have him and McDuffie on the outside, throw Connor inside, and McDuffie can slide inside. Now, listen, again, I don't know that they would do that. They might look at it like, well, going forward, it's, you got to adjust for the cap and everything else. But here's the other side of this. His contract has no guaranteed money after this year left in it. He's going to want to renegotiate. So if you're the Chiefs, maybe you add on a year or two. Like maybe you make it after this year, instead of it being a 2-year deal, maybe you make it a 4-year deal, but realistically it's like 3, and it's a year that he's never going to see. And you add guaranteed money in there, but you lower his cap hit. If I'm Kansas City, I mean, again, maybe they wouldn't do it. I would absolutely make that phone call.
Yeah, man. I'm with you. I mean, what's the word? I know he broke his leg. Does Watson have any chance of getting back, maybe for the playoffs?
Real tough.
Yeah.
Real tough. Look, is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. It's far more, I don't say far. It is more likely Hollywood Brown comes back. I think there is a real world where he could be back around Christmas. Now, it's a long rehab. And if you know anything about the human body, like, you don't know. I mean, he could heal perfectly and great, and he's back and awesome. Or, hey, man, it could be he has a setback, and, he's going to take an extra month, and, he's not going to be able to play. So, with Watson, I think it's really tough. On the flip side, like, could he get back for the Super Bowl even if they get there? Could he play in that game? I mean, I always think those things are hard because, like, if you're watching, you haven't played months and months and months. Now you're just going to go in there and play the Super Bowl. That's a lot. Like, I've seen, like, the Lions thing with Aiden Hutchinson. I get it, but, man, like, that dude's just going to show up and play in the Super Bowl after not playing for. Now T.O. did it years ago, Philly. It was great in the game. But, yeah, look, let's put it this way. I don't think they're planning on having Watson back. And if they have him back, it's awesome. I don't think that's the plan. I think they are kind of expecting at this juncture that, he's probably out this season.
And I think it's a harder position to get back into. Like, receiver, okay, you're running routes, but it's such a hard position to play. in the NFL at cornerback. You've got to react to guys. You need to be sharp and you need to be in shape. And it's hard for them to give up a roster spot on a guy that's probably not in game shape, maybe can only give you limited snaps and might be rusty. And, if you're rusty and you're a wide receiver and you go out there and you get blanketed, it's not necessarily catastrophic. You're a cornerback and you're rusty and you give up touchdowns. Yeah. So I'm with you. I hope he's able to get back and he heals fast and all that. But the Chiefs, and this is why it's so damn hard to try to do what the Chiefs are trying to do this year, is sometimes you just hit a streak of bad luck. It's hard enough to win in the NFL one time, let alone 3 times in a row. And it's a war of attrition. And the Chiefs are the walking wounded right now. I can't recall. They've had generally such good luck with injuries over the years. I can't recall a season where it's just like every game, big time players. The Chiefs seem to be going down. We've got another one, by the way. This one, I know everyone's going to be devastated about. Going on to IR today, Skymore with a core injury. What do you think about this one? You think Skymore's really got a core injury, putting him on IR?
Andy said he was going to probably need surgery. So, I guess, but seems very odd. Very odd. He was on the practice report yesterday.
Right. Yeah. It just
now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, he's on IR.
It almost feels like one of those moves where it's like, yeah, we need look.
Yeah, we need a roster spot. Guess what? I know. I mean, if he wasn't having surgery, listen, I was when I saw that come across Twitter, it's like the Chiefs basically told him, guess what, you're hurt. Yeah. But yeah, man, I have been about the most negative person alive on Skymore. I don't understand for the life of me why he's still on the team. But yeah, look, if he's getting surgery, he's getting surgery. If he's got a core injury, he's getting surgery on. He's going to be out for a while. My big question with this now is like, okay, with him out, you've got Hopkins, you've got Watson, you've got Hardman, Juju eventually here. Who the hell else is playing receiver?
Well, what about these guys on the practice squad? Like, this is what I can't understand. Look, I can understand maybe why they don't want to cut Skymore. There's not really much to be gained. He knows the playbook and all that stuff. If you have, just rashes of injuries, which they've been having, you've got a guy that you can put out there, but he can do absolutely nothing. But what I don't understand is is Ross, Remigio, can these guys do anything? Why is Skymore getting into games? If those guys are so bad that they can't get playing time over Skymore, what are they doing on the practice squad? Why don't you bring somebody else in and just evaluate them at this point? That's been the most perplexing thing for me is why we haven't seen Remigio in a game at some point.
I at the risk of being that guy, because they think he's terrible, because if they thought he was any good, he'd be out there.
Right? What's he doing on the team?
What is Skymore doing on the team? He's getting snaps.
Fair. But I just don't understand. Your practice squad should be for guys you think could develop, that you think you can call up if you need something. And Skymore is giving you less than something. I was making jokes on Twitter last week that the Chiefs should sign the inflatable. They call him the Inflataman receiver from Walmart, and it's just, he's got the mesh netting. And I was like, have Kelsey put him under one arm. He can't run routes, but have Kelsey just drop him in the middle of the field. And then if Mahomes puts it on target, guaranteed catch every time. Yet they send Skymore out there.
I don't know, man. It's 6 games, 3 targets, no receptions, and a drop. So it's great. It's really, but yeah, despite it all, look, there are going to be documentaries about this down the road. It's a Chiefs repeat. People are going to be like, do you know that they played a man down essentially on half of offensive snaps one of those years? It's incredible. It really is.
Can you imagine being some of these NFL greats, you're Dan Marino, and you walk into some NFL event and there's Skymore with 3 Super Bowl rings on his hand, down the line, you just got to go put your head in the toilet or in the oven.
I was going to say, right, you throw yourself in front of a tractor trailer. Yeah,
this is right. This is just the universe is a cruel place. And look, Skymore, we're not taking shots at Skymore as a person. Seems like
as a person, he's a great guy, but as a player,
yeah.
it's a challenge.
It hasn't worked out. All right. So Skymore out of there. We'll see what the Chiefs do. Other injury updates, as we mentioned already, Hollywood Brown might come back. He looks like he might be a little bit ahead of schedule. Rashee Rice not coming back. Pacheco's running on a treadmill. All three of those guys are back in the Chiefs facility. That's got to be, at least if you're Patrick Mahomes, you know that scene in the Avengers in Endgame. I know you're not a big movie guy, but did you see that one? No, of course. Well, it's a clip you might see often on social media, even if you've never seen the movie, where, you've got Captain America and he's fighting the bad guys, but he's all alone. Everybody's down. And then a portal opens up and all hundreds of superheroes come through and he's exhausted. And it's like, oh, thank God. Thank God, reinforcements. That's how Patrick Mahomes has to feel right now, walking into the facility after all these injuries. Even just seeing Rashee Rice back there has to make him feel better, even if he's not going to be back out there on the field. DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, my God, they have been through it.
Is Rashee Rice in his current physical state still the best receiver to have in the team?
He might be. That
like
makes,
not including Hopkins.
Yeah, when we're not talking about Kelsey. What's your take on Kelsey, by the way? Like, is it just a combo of age and there's nobody else to cover?
Yeah, look, I think yes. Yeah, I think that is the answer. I also think if we're being honest with ourselves, we're probably starting to see, the beginning of the end here. I mean, I think that the time has come. Doesn't mean he's not still a good player. Doesn't mean he's not productive. But the days of him just being penciled in for like 1,000 to 1,200 yards, they're done. I mean, I don't think he's going to get to 1,000 yards this year. I don't expect him all of a sudden to start racking up those numbers. Now, their schedule's conducive enough that it's not completely impossible. But yeah, I think Father Time is undefeated, and he's 35, and he will be 35 this year. They're not going to push him in the regular season. And to be honest, look, they're right not to. If they get the 1 seed, let's just be real. If they get the number 1 seed, they're going to ride him like Secretariat down the stretch, right? I mean, they are just going to be like, Trav, buddy, 3 games, like all out, 3 games. And listen, and I think he can do that. I still think he's more capable of doing that. But I think that's what they're looking at now. Like this team, and it got kind of, we actually talked about this briefly, I believe. I certainly have talked about this before he got hurt. This team was in a weird transitional phase because this offense was no longer about Travis Kelce. It's about Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, best player in the offense. I mean, other than Mahomes, obviously. And now it's kind of funny because, unfortunately Rice is out. They're about running the ball and being efficient. And, the occasional deep shot to work. This is not what they've been over the years. It's not. So it means it's bad. They're 6-0. But I've told every national person who will listen, who's sitting in my shoes, like, they are not an offensive team anymore. They're not. Haven't been for a year and a half. This is we are going to kick your ass on defense for 60 minutes team. We're going to outcoach you. And our quarterback is going to make 6 great plays a game. And that's enough. We're going to be efficient everywhere else offensively. We're not going to score 35 points anymore, but we're going to be efficient. Quarterback's going to make a half dozen great plays. We're going to out-scheme you. We're going to win the week because we're going to come in with a better plan. When we have to adjust, we'll adjust better than you. And defensively, we will absolutely fucking destroy you. That is the way they play. And their kicking game's awesome. They will out-kick you. They will do all those things. And in the playoffs, all that stuff's going to be magnified because they're going to sit there and go, look, not only is all that stuff still true, but we have all the experience in the world. And when you get a little tight or you make a little mistake, that's enough. That's the game. And, who does that sound like?
It's the Patriots.
What team? New England, forever. For 20 years, it's how they beat people. New England wasn't out there most games scoring 38 points. New England suffocated you. They played great defense. Brady had 3 3rd and 8s that he ripped your heart out on. Kelsey is the equivalent to Gronk. Maybe Hopkins will be their Edelman this year. Where it's like, look, they're just going to beat you on 6 or 7 major offensive plays. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to outcoach you, and they're going to kick your ass on defense. And when you give them the tiniest little opening in a playoff game, that's it. You will go home. They will beat you.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I was talking about this on the show a few shows ago. And the Chiefs are they're on a different plane than everybody else in the NFL. Everyone else in the NFL, they're trying to just get to a Super Bowl. What the Chiefs are trying to do is something that pretty much nobody in the league, other than maybe some personnel that are still with the Patriots, has ever had the opportunity to do or encountered. And so they're looking at it's like they've reached a higher like plane of existence. And so like, you and me, we see the world every day like, man, I just got the paycheck, I get the kid from daycare and all that stuff. Right. And like somebody else has like reached God tier where like they know the meaning of life and they're not sweating the small stuff because they've just reached that higher plane. And that's what the Chiefs are. And so when all these other fans are like, oh, Mahomes is throwing all these interceptions and, you got people that the Ringer put out some power rankings and the guy was just today. And the guy was just basically like, I'm mad. I'm sick of the Chiefs. They play like crap and they keep winning. I don't care if they're undefeated. I'm putting them third on the power rankings. I'm going to put the team they beat, the Ravens, ahead of them. And it's like these people just don't get it. The Chiefs don't care. They don't care. All they care about is dubs and Lombardis. And they're trying to just, what do we need to do to win? Do I need to give Carson Steele 40 carries? Because if that's the case, I'll do it. Do I need Noah Gray to be my number 1 wide receiver? That's what I need to do to beat you. That's what we're going to do. Nobody cares. No egos. It's kind of fantastic to watch if you're a fan of football and if you're a fan of winning.
It's a weird thing to say about a team in the Mahomes era, but I found myself watching this on Sunday and feeling it very intensely. I really enjoyed against San Francisco, as that game went on, them just being like, we're just going to run the ball over and over and over, and there's nothing you're doing about it. Nothing. It's coming. It's coming. And we are just going to run you over for first downs over and over. Like I saw somebody on Twitter, and I cannot remember who it was. It was just, it was a fan, it wasn't a big media person, who said Marty Schottenheimer must be looking down from heaven and smiling on this team.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's so true. Like, they play like that, like where it's like we're just going to annihilate. Now Marty would have had an aneurysm, I think, watching them turn the ball over. But in terms of like the mentality, it's the same type of mentality. Yep. We're going to just destroy you with defense. We're gonna be efficient on offense. We're going to run the ball. We're going to move. Now, obviously, look, the Chiefs of today have the ability to fall back on, hey, man, you want to throw it 40 times? You probably win that way too a lot. But it is true. It is something about this team. And to your point about like the power rankings and all that stuff, you're right. They don't care. But secondly, like I'm just going to use Baltimore as the example because you mentioned them. The Ravens could go undefeated the entire rest of the season. And if they play the Chiefs in the playoffs, I don't care what they say. They are 1,000% going to that game going, oh, God. Yeah. Like, oh, God. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's in Baltimore. I don't care. They're all going to that game saying to themselves, hey, we think we can win, but why? Why do we have to play this team? Anybody else. Anybody else. And if the Chiefs walk into that stadium that day, they're going, guess what? Here it comes. Yeah. Like, we're going to beat your ass again. Because do it every single time we play. I mean, and by the way, that's also true of the Bills. That's also true of the Bills. If they play the Bills in a playoffs game, I don't care if Allen doesn't throw a pick all year long. They're going to walk in there going, can anybody else please just beat them so we don't have to do it? Anyone else do it? And the Chiefs are going to walk in there and go, guess what? We're about to throw for like 10 yards an attempt in this game and rack up 400 some odd yards, and you're going to lose. Yeah. And honestly, again, not to bring it back to them again, but it's like New England forever. People did this forever with the Patriots, where they'd start out, now the Chiefs are 6-0, but the Pats, how many years? 4-2, 5-3, Brady's, and you're like, I don't know, man. Like, they don't have it this year. And then you'd start watching them play, and you're like, oh, my God, they're going to do it again. Like, they'd win 6 straight to end the year, and you'd get to the divisional round because they'd have a bye, and we'd get Nance welcoming in everybody to Foxborough, and you get that obligatory shot of Brady doing what Mahomes does now, like Brady would run down the sideline and scream at the fans, and you're like, yeah, whoever's playing them's going to lose.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is, doesn't matter. They're about to get killed. You just knew. They'd show that. They'd show Belichick with the hoodie and the headset on. You're like, yeah, whoever's playing them's in for a bad day.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Kansas City.
Yeah, the coaching advantage that they have is so incredible. I think Spagnuolo is as good as he's ever been right now. He's making all the right calls and all the right moments. It's really, that's one of the most fun things for me to watch has been Steve Spagnuolo. I can't remember a season where it just seems like he gets almost every call right. Almost every call. He's like, all right, like you move down the field in this first drive, maybe get a field goal. I'm going to figure out what you're doing here. I'm going to wait. All right. I got the blitz for you. I got the blitz. When do we need it? Now's when we need it. Now's when I'm dialed up. It's been masterful to watch. He really does need to get strong consideration for the Hall of Fame.
He does. Yeah, I agree with you. It's so funny because, you'll see them almost like play coy early in the game. A lot of times it's like, okay, we're going to play a little bit of a base defense. We're going to see what you're doing. And then, and you were making that point, but I was thinking about, as you were making that point, the Saints game, where as the game wore on, specifically in the fourth quarter, Spagnuolo was just like, we're going to blitz 7 guys every play. That's what's going to happen now. And Carr, unfortunately got hurt because they just drilled him and it was like, yeah, here it comes. And I guarantee in this Raiders game, they are going to figure out a weakness or two on the Raiders front, and they will just relentlessly go at it the entire game. And to this point, in a little bit of a different direction, but it applies to the Chiefs. I last week watched the Packers and the Texans in the early window, and the Packers, who have a new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, they ran a lot of very similar blitzes to what the Chiefs run. A lot of complex stuff, guys moving all over, stunts, twists, guys dropping out, all of those things, all the different wrinkles. The Texans could not handle any of it. I mean, any of it. To the point where Stroud threw for less than 90 yards and got sacked 4 times. It was just, even when he wasn't getting sacked, he was running for his life. I mean, they could not handle any of it. I wonder if the Chiefs play them, maybe it's a regular season game, maybe it's a playoff game, maybe they hold off to the playoffs. I wonder if they also can't handle it in the Chiefs. Because the Chiefs are going to look at that tape and be like, well, they couldn't handle it then. Well, let's see them handle this. I wonder if that is a huge problem for Houston should the Chiefs play him. And by the way, Houston's given up the 4th most sacks in football this year. Yeah. The only teams that have given up more, I believe, off the top of my head, are the Browns, the Pats, and the Giants. I wonder if the Chiefs play them. They may not do it in Week 16 because I could see them being like, if we see them, we don't want to show all this stuff. And I wonder if they saw them in a playoff game, if Spagnuolo's like, yeah, here's 15 blitzes you've never seen. Good luck. Because it was a problem against Green Bay, man. I don't know if you saw that game. They couldn't block anybody. Anybody. It was a free-for-all that entire game.
It's sort of fascinating, too, because there's really only 2 teams at this point. The Chiefs are obviously they're undefeated. They're in control of their own destiny to get that 1 seed.
Right.
But they can really nail the coffin shut because, look, the Bengals ain't catching them. They got the tiebreaker on them. They've already got 4 losses. Even if they finish strong, they're not catching them. The Chiefs play the Steelers. I don't think the Steelers are going to be in contention for the number 1 seed at the end there, but the Steelers are 5-2. The Ravens have lost 2 games. The Chiefs have beaten them. It's really at this point, it's the Bills who are 5-2 and the Texans who are 5-2, and the Chiefs play both of those teams. So it's fascinating. And before we get to previewing the Raiders game, I just got to ask you really quickly. I know it's crazy, but if you look at the Chiefs' schedule, do they have a chance to flirt with going undefeated here?
I'm going to say no, just based on the fact one team's haven't done it. But I will say this: any game in the NFL is a potential trap. You can lose. Who you're playing. I mean, like we're going to talk about this game coming up. Like, should they lose? God, no. Could they? Yeah. I mean, it's the NFL, man. Things happen. That being said, let's call it what it is. They should be 9-0 going to Buffalo. They should.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Buccaneers game looked tough, and then unfortunately for them, Edmonds got hurt. Godwin got hurt. I mean, that's a game now that those guys they should win going away.
And it's at Arrowhead.
Yeah, and it's a Monday night and everything else. By the way, we have to talk about that. I am going to be in Chicago at a bar for that game.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that. Just shout out, by the way, here. We'll get the information out there. But yeah, Bar asked me to come out for the game. So
nice.
Yeah, I'll be down there. But they should be 9-0 going to Buffalo.
They got Vegas this weekend on the road.
Yeah.
Home against Tampa Bay on Monday night.
Yeah.
Denver, who can't score. They have a good defense. They can't score.
At Arrowhead.
Yeah, at Arrowhead. And then they go on the road to Buffalo.
Yep.
That's a tough one. Then it's Carolina. Yep. Then it's the Raiders again. Then it's the Chargers, who also can't score, have no receivers. Then it's at Cleveland on December 15th. They're awful. Yep. No quarterback. Might be better now, actually, that Watson's hurt. Then it's Houston. So, like, they play sound enough football. Hopkins helps. The defense continues to be good. They beat Buffalo. If they beat
that's
Buffalo,
when you start having the conversation.
Yeah. Like, yes. I mean,
if they go into Orchard Park 9-0 and then they beat the Bills, then it becomes a real, like, hey, they might do this. Because first of all, I don't care. I don't give a damn what they say publicly. If they beat the Bills and they're 10-0, they're going to start thinking about it. Yeah. They're going to be like, Carolina stinks. The Raiders are awful in that game's at home. The Chargers, that's not only at home, it's on a Sunday night in December. Good luck to the Chargers in that game. Yeah. Then they go play Cleveland. You want to talk about a team is deader than hell? That game's it. And then, yes, then you have Houston at home on a Saturday, and then you go to Pittsburgh on Christmas, and you finish up at Denver. Like, the Houston game's at home, the Pittsburgh game. Look, I respect Pittsburgh, but let's be real. If the Chiefs play well, they should beat Pittsburgh. Yeah. And then Denver, if the Chiefs are 16-0 and they want to go for it, Denver's not beating them in that game. So, yeah, I mean, there's a world. Now, again, I am not going to even start with that stuff unless they are 10-0. They go to Buffalo at 9-0 and they win that game. Then I think, yeah, it has to be a conversation. Then all of a sudden you're looking at it going, all right, man. I mean, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
If they start out the year, try and be reasonable here. Reasonable. If they start out 14-0 going into the Houston game, and they've clinched the 1 seed at that point, do you still play full tilt, or do you start not even at that point resting guys? You're not going to rest guys for 3 weeks, but like, would you start like, hey, you know what, Mahomes is only going to play the first half of these games, and we're going to really throttle it back and maybe not play anybody in the Denver game? Like, would you do that, or would you say no, F it, we're going for it, we're going to try to go 17-0?
I think you have to. You have to go for it. You owe it to the players and your fans. When you've come that far, because your ultimate goal obviously is to win a Super Bowl. And we saw last year, Travis Kelce had a chance to set a really important record with his 1,000-yard receiving streak. He did what was best for the team and sat that last game out so that he could get healthy and get to the playoffs and help them win a Super Bowl. But this is a team goal. It's not an individual accolade. And if you get to 14-0 and you've just got to get by, a good Houston Texans team at home and a road game in Pittsburgh, and then probably a Denver team at that point who will be playing every young guy, all that stuff at the end of the season, you have to do it because you have you're already going for history with the three-peat. Can you imagine if the Chiefs, in the season that they go for the three-peat, also become the only team ever to go to win that many games, go undefeated, and then join the Dolphins and win the Super Bowl on a three-peat? They, honest to God, if they do that, they should put Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones in the Hall of Fame the next day. I don't care. I don't care what the rules are. Burn the rules, make an amendment, an exception, put them in the Hall of Fame.
Well, listen, if they ever did that, okay, let's just call it the greatest team of all time. And there's no arguing it. Like, if they go undefeated on their way to a three-peat,
yeah,
That's I don't want to hear anything from anybody forever about that. But listen, right now their goal is to get to 7-0. Their goal is to get to 7-0, and that starts with beating the Raiders.
Yeah, and let's talk about that real quick. There's really not much to say about this game, but I'll give you a quick primer. Chiefs going on the road to their other home stadium out there in Vegas. They're 9.5-point favorites as of when I put the outline together. Over under for this game is 41.5. I think I don't even need to ask you this. You expect the Chiefs to go scorched earth on the Raiders. You got the Christmas Day game from last year, the Kermit the Frog stuff. You guys don't remember over the summer, the Raiders had a Mahomes wigged Kermit the Frog. They were imitating him, saying, "I'm here," laughing it up. Just today, Jack Jones of the Raiders said that nobody on the team's intimidated by Patrick Mahomes. It just feels like it's going to be a real long day for the Raiders.
They're going to get smoked. And I am not usually that guy because even though I normally pick the Chiefs to win, as I normally do, I very rarely with this current edition pick this team to blow anybody out. They're going to annihilate the Raiders in this game. I really no. Yes, there's always the off chance the Raiders decide to show up and play football, and that's great. That'd be the first time in a while. And I know you can sit there and say, "Well, they beat the Ravens earlier this year." And Week 2 is a long time ago in the NFL, and Devontae Adams isn't there anymore, and Christian Wilkins is on IR, and I'm here to tell you that team is awful. That is an awful football team. They have 2 guys on the team that we should even waste time or shouldn't waste time with and actually address. Max Crosby's unbelievable. He's a great player. One of the 3 best defensive players in football, in my opinion. Brock Bowers, really good young tight end. That's it. We're good. I'm done. That's it, man. Yeah. I have nothing else to add. They lost Adams. I don't care about Jacoby Myers. I don't.
You're not worried about Alexander Madison?
No, I am not. No, I understand. There's a couple other guys on the team who are good players, like Robert Spillane, the linebacker, and I'm not saying there aren't good players, but they don't have anybody who makes a difference. They don't have one of those guys. You're that guy, circle him, underline him, whatever. Other than Crosby and Bow, that's it, man. There's nobody. They're not talented. They're not good. They're one of the 5-6 worst teams in football.
Yeah, they give up 26 points per game. They're actually not too far behind. They're right behind the Chiefs in yards allowed, but this team turns they turn the ball over an insane amount. Only the Jaguars. So as far as points per game, like I said, they're 29th. Jaguars, Cowboys, and Panthers are the only ones that are worse. KC only gives up 17 points a game. On offense, the Raiders only score 17.7 points per game. They lead the league in turnovers. You think that the Chiefs have been bad with Mahomes and the interceptions? The Raiders have 16 turnovers this year. The next closest is the Panthers with 12, and they only have 3 takeaways. There have been 4 teams in the Super Bowl era with 3 or fewer takeaways and 16 or more giveaways in the first 7 games. That's the 2024 Raiders, the 2020 Cowboys, the 2019 Dolphins, and the 2018 49ers. They blow. They're not good. The Chiefs, even if they don't play their best game, which they haven't played their best game all year, should win by double digits in this one. We're going to get to our final score predictions here in just a second, but real quick, with big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere in between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. So say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and the jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected coverages, and say hello to Mint Mobile. Check it out. It's a great way to support the show. So you get this new customer offer. It's a 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Just go to mintmobile.com/arrowhead. That's mintmobile.com/arrowhead. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/arrowhead. It's a $45 upfront payment required. That's the equivalent of $15 per month. New customers on a first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, final score predictions. Why don't you kick us off, Verderame? Chiefs at Raiders.
Yeah, I think this is an absolute killing, ritualistic. I think the Chiefs are going to get into the 30s. I will go as far as to say I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. You know what? Here's my bold prediction. There were 4 or 5 in the red zone last week in San Francisco. Hey, I like 5 for 5.
Okay.
They're going to beat them 35-9.
Okay.
I don't think the Raiders are scoring a touchdown. The Raiders this year, you gave some stats. I'll give you a couple other ones. Third down this year, the only teams worse than the Raiders offensively are the Panthers, Broncos, and Browns. Not exactly the 99 Rams, any of them. In terms of getting into the red zone, the Raiders, 23rd. It's only 17 trips. They average per drive 1.46 points per drive. Yeah, that's a fat 26th. We could keep going. Yardage per drive, only better than the Pats, Browns, and Titans. Okay, and the Chiefs, by the way, are 8th. This is a team, and then to your point about the turnovers, hilarious. 19% of their drives end up in a turnover. They're brutal. Like, they're brutal offensively. You look at their running yardage, and that's been awful. You can't run at all. They rank 30th in yards per attempt at 3.8 yards per game on the ground. They're 30th in that as well. You could go on and on, man. They're bad in almost every single metric offensively. And then defensively, they have 75 missed tackles this year. The next worst team is the Rams, who have 58. Okay.
Yeah.
They missed a ton of tackles. Even with Crosby, their pressure rate's awful. They're 25th in the league. Might surprise you, the Chiefs are 4th. How often does a team get to the quarterback and knock him down? They're middle of the pack. They don't have the numbers next to the side, so I'm trying to do the math real quick. They're 19th at 8.4% of dropbacks will knock the quarterback down. You know who's number 1? The Chiefs, 16.1. The Raiders are also an extremely blitz-heavy team. They're 5th in the league. They blitz more than the Chiefs do. So you know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a lot of extra pressure, a lot of extra rushers. Look, the bottom line is this is a team that is not good almost across the board. It's a team that I would be. The one thing I will say, the one spot they're good in, they're very good on third down defensively, 28.9% against. They're 2nd in the NFL. And the Chiefs are very good on third down offense. So that is one little area to watch. The Chiefs are 4th in the league, 45.3. I think the Chiefs blow them out, man. I think Mahomes is going for like 350 and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think this is where the Chiefs get back on track a little bit. You almost had the exact same score that I originally predicted when I did the outline. I've got it. I originally had it 34-9. I amended that to 34-16 because I think they'll get a garbage time touchdown because the Chiefs are beating the pants off them as bad as I think they're going to be. It'll be a lot like last week with the 49ers where like it wasn't even as close as that looked. Right. By the way, were you surprised at the whooping that the Chiefs put on the 49ers?
A little bit, yeah. I actually thought they'd win. I picked them to win, but yeah, I was surprised at how they basically just took the lunch money. Yeah, I was. Now, part of that, to be fair, like Debo got, you got sick, you had to leave, and I got, but yeah, the Chiefs also had Juju go out of the game, and it just didn't matter. Watson got hurt, didn't matter. Like they beat him up. They beat him up good.
Yeah. All right. Before we get out of here, we've got to do Patty's power rankings. I had a fun one here for us this week, Verderame. How about the top 3 teams you would cheer for if you couldn't cheer for the Chiefs? Say the Chiefs vanished, they're gone. You can't root for them anymore, or somebody offers you an insane amount of money to not be a Chiefs fan anymore. You got to pick another team. You're looking at the current landscape. Who would you pick? Top 3. Give me your number 3.
Oh my God. I guess at the risk of sounding like I'm just jumping on a bandwagon, the Lions, because they've sucked forever, and like watching them win a Super Bowl would be pretty cool. I remember when we were all living in Chicago, and you obviously still do. I'm outside of it now, but like when the Cubs won the World Series, I'm not a Cubs fan, but that was incredible to see that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd say the Lions at number 3.
Okay, Lions at number 3. For me, I'm going to go with the Browns, hometown team. I grew up in Northeast Ohio. That's an easy one. They would probably be higher if they weren't such a disaster of an organization. Yeah. But if I had to start from scratch, man, like they'd be on the list, but they wouldn't be at the top of us. It just can't happen.
Number 2 for me would be the Packers. I guess I'm a big fan of the NFC North. I love history. And I love their history, and I've been to Lambeau, and I've covered Lambeau, games at the Lambeau. It's just an awesome atmosphere, and I live 3 hours from there now, and our lake home's 3 hours from there. So, I think that would be one. I just enjoyed. They're such a unique franchise, and they're a fun team to watch. And I like Matt LaFleur. I've gotten to know him a little bit, and I respect him quite a bit as both a person and a coach. So, they'd be my number 2.
They're my number 2 as well, and pretty much for the same reason. Historical organization. I'm picking a new team. I love the history. I'd be losing all the great history with Lamar Hunt and the Chiefs. And so the Packers, Lombardi, they're not too far away here from Chicago, a great venue, all that stuff. A great, really well-run organization. Like I'm picking a team that I want to follow here. I don't want to be picking the Raiders or something like that. So I went with the Packers number 2 as well. All right, I'm really interested to hear this one. Who's number 1 for you?
Oh, the Jets. No, I'm just kidding. I'd rather drink Clorox in the middle of a freeway. I will say in the state though, look, kind of like your reasoning with Cleveland. I mean, it's a hometown thing, and I have a lot of friends who root for them. So I'll say the Giants. Obviously, I wouldn't be thrilled the current iteration of the Giants, but I grew up around. I grew up in New York. I grew up an hour and a half in the Meadowlands. I used to go to the Meadowlands all the time. I would say Giants, just based on, again, I have a bunch of buddies who are Giants fans, and I, when the Chiefs weren't good, like I always rooted for the Giants. Like when they were in the Super Bowls against New England and stuff, like I always found myself pulling for them. So I would say the Giants, just based on the geography and my own personal history.
And that's a historical team too. I went with the Lions. If I was picking an NFL team right now, and I'm looking at the landscape, and I'm trying to take in everything into account, and I'm talking about like they've got great looking uniforms, incredibly passionate fan base. They're the underdog. Dan Campbell, like love Dan Campbell. He's hilarious. You kind of want to run through a wall for him. They've got exciting players. They play a really exciting brand of football. You got an underdog at quarterback. You got a guy like David Montgomery out there just running people over. I mean, they're really Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, who just got suspended because he's a complete knucklehead, but is an electrifying receiver when he gets the ball in his hands. Like that's a team I would have fun rooting for. And I watch a lot of their games. They're great to watch. So Lions. I mean, certainly not going to pick. I thought about the Bills. I'll be honest with you. But there's just too much bad blood there for me. They embody a lot of what I like about football and football fans, but I couldn't do it.
5 years ago, sure.
Yeah.
And now it's like I always felt like I'm always like, man, if the Bills win, good for them, man. Like, and now I'm kind of the point. I'm so sick of Bills fans coming after me on Twitter. I'm like, it'd be really funny if you got there and lost to the Lions.
Yeah. Some of the it's so funny there. I keep seeing Bills fans make a big deal about Patrick Mahomes throwing interceptions. And I'm like, oh, so now all of a sudden you guys care about interceptions matter. When Josh Allen was throwing an interception to every other pass, every excuse under the sun, the Bills fans.
Dude, this ends. Like, Allen's going to have a year where he throws like 4 interceptions and Mahomes throws like 15, and they're going to see each other in the playoffs, and the Chiefs are going to pick Allen off like 3 times. And Mahomes is just going to be absolutely flawless in the game. Like, it's just and then afterwards, like, even if the Chiefs win by 37 points, you're going to get somebody who's like, but look at this hold that wasn't called in the first quarter. Yeah, okay. That's great, man. Congratulations.
All right, before we get out of here, how much Count Chocula do you have left?
Well, I just bought a box here a day, and so I've got a good. I get the family size, but none of that weak shit where you get like a little box. I get the family size box, so I don't feel too bad about it. I also have gotten to the point, and look, thank God for like pickleball and other things. I haven't gained weight throughout this month, but I'll have like a bowl of cereal, but I bring the Count Chocula with me, and I'm like, oh, there's some extra milk still left. And I just, pour a little bit in there. It ends up being like 2 bowls of cereal. It's a disaster. But I have also started to basically starve myself the rest of the day. So I'm like, I don't care if I have 700 calories of Count Chocula. It's not what I would call health conscious, but I would say, you know what? There's a such thing called mental health as well, kids. And I'll tell you, when I feel great about myself? When I'm having 2 fucking bowls of Count Chocula at 2 a.m. watching the challenge. Okay. Yeah. That's when I feel good about myself. Because, the kids are asleep. The wife's asleep. Nobody has to watch me go through what is basically the ritual of a 14-year-old. But no, man, I've got. By the way, I want to shout out. I appreciate everybody here and elsewhere, and I'm sure you get this too. People who will tweet me pictures from like Costco.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I found Count Chocula, bro. You need a box. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. You and I have both had listeners send us boxes of Count Chocula, which is incredibly kind. And I thought for sure that we were getting poisoned, but we're both still here.
Would have been the right thing, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Shout out to all of our members who have been active in the chat this whole episode. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict family, check out the link in the description. You also need to check out Matt's work over at Sports Illustrated, our sister site. He's doing great stuff over there. What do you got cooking right now?
Man, we just put up a piece while we're on the podcast of like myself, Albert Breer, Connor Orr, Gilberto Manzano, what we're hearing about trade deadline. Chiefs are in the piece, by the way. And so you can check that out over on SI.com. I've got the watchability index, which is just a fun piece. Like I do it every Saturday where I just rank like the 10 most watchable games. And I use it like for the back half of the list. I just make fun of teams. Got the weekly film study, goes up every Wednesday. I've got right now, I'll tell you what, man, I'm working on a huge project that I was talking to Joe Namath right before we did this podcast, which is awesome. Every time I get to talk to Joe Namath, it's a treat. That is, I'm sworn to secrecy on, but it is a big project. So keep an eye out for that. And then look, once you're done listening to your stuff here, which listen to everything that Patrick and the guys do here on Arrowhead Addict, I've got the Mad Verderame show on Patreon, which is a Chiefs podcast. You can subscribe either for $5 a month or $10 a month, depending on the content you want. I got a new episode I'm recording in an hour. Tashawn Reed of The Athletic, who covers the Raiders, is coming on it. And then we've got 17 questions in a mailbag that I'm going to knock out. So, nice. 2 to 3 episodes. Well, 3 episodes every week, 2 if you're a $5 member. But yeah, go ahead on Patreon. Check that out. You can find the link in my my Twitter feed.
And Matt will take you right into Thursday Night Football. So
yes, I will.
What more can you ask for? All right, everybody. Appreciate the support. Shout out to producer Richard for getting us up and running today. We will be back on Sunday with our regular pregame, halftime, and postgame show for the Chiefs at Raiders. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and make sure you got notifications turned on, because when the Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins, I went live with an emergency podcast. If they make any other moves, we'll be right here on the Arrowhead Addict podcast. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Until then, as always, go Chiefs.